Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. I have a few thoughts for you guys today on Saturday, and I might go for a walk tonight. I probably should. And I love getting messages in the middle of videos. By the way, it's just okay. So, um, we just have a lot of time on our hands right now. I hope I'm doing at least pretty good in that regard. Um, it's just there's more time to think about stuff, and it's sometimes hard to not think about negative thoughts, things that have happened in the past. And some things sting more than other things, of course. Um, but there's some things that I really think you guys would benefit from hearing um, regarding a few thoughts I've had recently. I really think, I really, I really think you guys are going to benefit from some of these thoughts. I was telling my dad, I can't think of the number of people I've known that have misunderstood me or have treated me poorly. That was more when I was a boy, in many respects, with bullying and stuff. But um, misunderstanding me, yes, that's always been the case, and it's just it's very much also the case that there's not a whole lot of folks that have been intellectually on par with me. I've rarely met people that were brighter than I was. Now, more skilled, naturally skilled at math and engineering and sort of thing. Yeah, I've known some folks like that. But overall, not too many that would be overall at my level or exceed my level. I mention this because it affects so much of my life in terms of how I see other people, or how I've seen other people in the past, and just the nature of my relationships in general. Um, and so a lot of people haven't known what to make of me in the past. They still don't. And the thing and of course, they're saying all this when you, when you when you with some people when they're trying to explain certain thoughts online. Um, and I've seen now a fair number of videos that have not been professionally done or whatever, high quality equipment, all that stuff, right? I've seen a fair number where people are just being either they're themselves. It's just have their life. They're not really putting a lot of effort into improving their videos, so to speak, in YouTube speak, right? And a lot of these folks, well, at least some, can tell are a little bit different than your average Joe in terms of uh, how they think and how they talk and how they are. And regardless of whatever is going on with me, I have folks. In case you haven't picked this up, in case you. That's right. In case you haven't fully noticed this, I've always had one foot firmly in reality. Very much aware of other people. Very very keen. Very perceptive about what's happening. And then the other foot is definitely not at all that way. It's my own thoughts. It's fantasy. It's composition. It's my own emotions. It's uh, it's just not. I've never been fully practical. I've never been extremely incredibly perceptive in some respects, right? And I certainly don't convey to other people always how I really am. But that's pretty much not my fault. Pretty much. And so there's a lot of misunderstanding that I'm very familiar with. Um, reason I'm mentioning this right now is that it has something to do with how angry everybody is, or how, well, I, I, I'll be honest. I do feel like I'm a little bit in a peaceful bubble, so to speak. At least, especially more recently, I haven't really come across a whole lot of really irate people. Um, that irate more because of what's happening right now. I've been pretty lucky in that regard. It's I've touched some here and there. It's been on my peripheral, but it's a lot of it's online. A lot of it's YouTube stuff. And um, it does help that I right now having a very low carb diet. That's definitely helping quite a bit in terms of just what's happening within my own psyche and body. But and that's another subject that I can get into as well. But I can't tell you the number of people I've known that have not had the right idea about my personality or thought processes I've had within my own church, certainly within my church. Um, and it's going to take a lifetime for me to try to work all this out. Regarding what the heck is wrong with everybody. It shouldn't take a brain surgeon to figure out what I'm like. And what often is more hurtful for most people, um, I it helps having some awareness of other people. But what always stings the most is if someone socially rejects you because you're unattractive, or you're dumb, or you're not in various ways desirable to have as company. You're just you're cast off. You're one of the shunned. That stuff stings the most, because and we often tend to, again, buy into these labels over time. However people have treated us, we tend to kind of act the way that we've been treated, more or less. And so a lot of folks have been treated very poorly. They won't always treat other people poorly. They might, but it's just that you can't expect that kind of person to always be the ray of sunshine that we all need. Um, some people will pick up very, very quickly when other people are good people, though. The the, the Asians, the Chinese, we'll say the old Chinese culture, which that's another subject. Always mentioning China and the old versus the communist culture, but basically the old values that, well, one of many old values, and many trains of thought in East Asia in general, but this is true to China, I think, is that there's an admiration for those who suffer silently, or they are long suffering. They put up with just a lot of stuff, and then they just kind of keep going in life. You know, on some level, we all do this, um, which is to our credit, spiritually, mind you. Which one of us um, wants to exact justice and revenge for every little wrong that has been done to us? It's exhausting, but yet there needs to be at some point justice done for all wrongs that are not repented of. But we're getting to religion again here. There needs to be at some point some kind of restitution. Until that point, you know, it's very hard sometimes to not think about how we've been wronged. But it's also healthy to not dwell on it, because this again is a spiritual arena. It's a spiritual, emotional kind of thing. This is just my opinion. These are just my thoughts here. But when I've tried to hey, when I've tried to correct something, or I've tried to, you know, whether I'm polite and assertive or more aggressive, whenever I've tried to right some wrong, it often doesn't go right. I often don't say what I mean to say, and you know, it doesn't always matter how polite I am, how diplomatic I am. Because that's always like I'm often that way. That's my general tendency is to be that way. But most people just don't. Most people don't have much tolerance for. Actually, I'll put it this way: a lot of adults have less tolerance for conflict than kids. Kids are dealing with conflicts all the time that are big deals to them because this is the first time they're dealing with them. Adults like, oh, we're gonna sue you, at least in the United States, or we kind of snap at people. A lot of adults do, and so this whole thing, and it's stupid. It's wrong. There's no justification for it. I 9/10, easily 9/10 of litigation is just people having issues with each other. Easily, easily. Like, and yeah, the slander, libel, whatever stuff. It's bullying, or it's people having conflicts. They just escalate it to the making it public, and which is an issue, right? That is an issue. That's not just bullying. That's worse, But I mean, it's what I'm trying to say is that um, a lot of people excuse themselves for a lot of things which we shouldn't. There is no excuse for certain behaviors. Um, I'm trying to, I guess, I'm trying to tie this back into what's happening right now a little bit in the world. Um, you guys notice, by the way, it goes without saying that protesters that are essentially good people, they're not going to be up to no good. They're not going to be up to mischief. There was a New York City cop, sergeant or a captain, I'm not sure who, somebody who wasn't just a rank and file cop, but there was a New York guy, it's a New York City cop that I saw, who basically spelled it out. Which he spelled out what we all knew, that your protesters and stuff, they're not the folks to point the finger at. And he knew it was lawless people that were looting, that were not actually there to protest something that was wrong. You know, he knew the distinction. You guys could look it up. It's a New York City cop. I loved hearing that because I was like, yeah, guys, I know how easy it is to hate cops. It doesn't matter what race you are. Well, although I still think that yes, if you are black in the inner city, it's yeah, that's still next level, and But anyway, but it just we all fear cops on some level. We all fear getting pulled over. We all um, are afraid of getting shot, arrested, and all this other stuff. Sure, that's a very understandable fear. So it's like when you see these anti-cop videos, which there's a lot of them, especially right now. It's just again, in some level, it's distorted. Um, I do like the reforms that are happening. All the reforms I'm seeing right now, every last one of them, I think is good. Actually, they need to happen. There are a lot of things that need to happen, not just with cops, but finally we're getting some actual reform regarding singling out black folks and how wrong that is. It's very, very wrong. But there are a lot of reasons why police departments operate that way, and I'm glad that we're finally actually seriously addressing this, at least since the civil rights era. But but yeah, I mean, like then you can just keep going to all these different kinds of institutions, and yes, you can actually reform healthcare, especially the health insurance craziness. You can reform education. That's a little bit more complicated, but essentially what well, there's a lot of things to mention here. Education, and then you can reform, uh, you name it. Um, and I still believe that the private sector does things better than the government, because what does government want to do? And how do they know what to spend money on? And how do they know that once that money's spent on whatever they're spending it on, it's going to help that problem? This is why I'm not a Democrat, folks. But if you are a Democrat, you do have more trust in how the government spends all that money for social programs, and some of that is needed. That's why a lot of us are moderates, but at least, but it's like this is the reason why I lean Republican. By the way, it's because I simply trust the private sector more than I do the government regarding what certainly the private sector is more efficient, but it's what will actually help people the most. That's always the question. And government's not going to help. I mean, look, do any one of us honestly believe the national government is trying to help people? Many people want to believe that Trump is trying to help people. We get these government stimulus checks. Yeah, that was awesome. I'm not going to get into all these conspiracy theories right now. That's too big of a thing. But it's just that, no, I'm sorry, man. Sorry, folks. Life would be quite a bit different. And I do mean quite a bit different. Quite a bit different. If government actually wanted to help people, everybody's life, and I do mean everyone in the United States, would be considerably better. I'm especially talking about people that are less well off, poorer folks, and lower middle class. But everybody's life would be better off. You say, well, really? Yeah, I do mean really. If government wanted to help people, we wouldn't have all the rumors about the Illuminati would get crushed because the Illuminati would be booted out of government. It would not. You'd have a civil war or you have a world war. That's what it took. But all this money that people are paying in taxes, it wouldn't go to wars that are stupid, that we're being misinformed of what they're really for. Man, we'd have so much money for welfare. It'd be no joke. We'd have people, but honestly, obviously, everybody does need to work. But it's just that there wouldn't be any starvation. Nobody would be starving. Everybody would be healthy. Everybody would have, and government would take care of rent issues. People having rent. I mean, it'd be almost limitless regarding how much money we would have for everybody that needed it, and that's because government would actually be trying to help people. But no, they're not trying to help people. They're just trying to help just enough so that we avoid revolution. That's what's happening. And if anybody believes that the government's more benevolent than that, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. They're not. Now, they might, hey, if you're a billionaire, trillionaire, Jeff Bezos, I don't spend my time envying these people, but it's obvious that if you're someone in that range, government will say, hey, ooh, wow, let's be buddies here. Whoa. You're gonna be part of the club, even though if you're not officially Skull and Bones or whatever, because you have so much money, you have so much power and influence. They're gonna invite you in. They'll be very cautious about what they show you what they talk to you about, some folks. But yeah, I mean, like, you're basically in a different situation than vast majority of Americans or other people throughout the world who are essentially powerless right now and have been for our entire lives, basically, more or less. Powerless in a political sense. And then other things as well. But very, very, very infinitely powerful in other respects. And it's just, I don't know. Getting back to my really early trains of thought here, it's just, um, it's really easy to see, for the most part, who actually has more perception, social perception online than others. And there's a lot of things that are very forgivable, but for those adults who are fully functioning adults, who don't have any limitations, who have no real reason to, you know, there are some folks that I am a lot more severe with. It's true. And they tend to be more those folks I know in real life when that ever happens. But again, it's not really my credit to be severe with someone. I think it's just reasonable to expect some things from people. Reasonable. But then again, my expectations aren't always the same as God's, so I'm definitely not perfect that way. And I think we all ought to realize this on some level. So let me just talk about what I expect really quick. What do I expect from other people in my life and then online? And then, of course, it goes without saying, before I mention this stuff, it's what other people expect from me. Right? The Ten Commandments and being courteous and mindful of other people's moods, which I've been this way in spades throughout my entire life. And obviously, but then the Ten Commandments, these things tend to take care of what other people ask and want of me. And then if there's a job, it's additional job things involved with that. That's, yeah. What I expect from other people actually is basically the same deal. It's just that we can get into all the particulars because I have all my little things that I want in life and things I like in people and but ultimately it boils down to the Ten Commandments and whatever stuff that God wants us, how God wants people to be. But he won't force us to be in a certain way. So I always have to, at the end of the day, let people be themselves and make their own decisions, regardless of how unjust they've been or how unkind they've been. And it's one of the hardest things for me to deal with in life, because as you get older, you can probably handle bigger things, but they're still not easy. It's not easy for any of us. But I think it's reasonable to expect other people to behave in a manner that reflects the spirit of the Ten Commandments, at least. And there are many people that don't live by those standards, not even remotely. Now, it's one thing if it's a lot of us don't, because there's always a spirit of what these different commandments are and these different levels of adhering to them. And so I realize that it's not like there's a lot of shortcomings here, but there are people that just don't even make an effort to live any of them. Yeah, and if someone wants to make a big deal out of theology, that's fine. But I'm just talking about basic ethics, basic morality. Don't kill someone. Don't steal from somebody. Right? That kind of stuff. So one of the things, that I'm mindful of is, so how should we treat someone we don't know? We just, acquaintance, not even that, just someone that you're talking to. Well, isn't it? How often is it that we have a cross conversation with someone that's we don't know that is like a it's regarding something stressful like insurance or business or some interaction that's I wonder how often that happens. Imagine it happens for some folks a fair amount. It's a fluctuating thing, but it's just some things can be very vexing. And again, this modern society we live in seems to justify being offended, being, you know, it's okay to lash out at someone. No, it's not. However, um, if someone is being unethical and dishonest and trying to take advantage of someone, I mean, you see that there's always different degrees of how much someone wrongs someone, and as you guys know, the more that a person is wronged, the graver the sin, the graver the injustice, the more apt that someone is to be extremely upset with someone, beyond upset, like loathe and more severe words, wrath, and, rage, and all. You know, but at the end of the day, it's like there is no justification for um, taking things into your own hands, or it's a very serious matter to actually take. What I'm ultimately talking about is murder, because the ultimate. Well, there are things worse than murder, but basically, if somebody kills someone because of some wrong that was done to them, that's pretty stinking serious, you know. And it could, but again, there's different levels of intent, and so, but but imagine if everybody. I'm just mentioning this, folks, because of how upset a lot of people are right now. Imagine if everybody were to just kill someone that did some little thing they didn't like. So a cashier forgets to put something in your grocery bag, and you forget about it, and you're like, "Oh, I paid for the toothpaste and never got it." And someone was so screwy in the head that instead of just trying to take the receipt back and get toothpaste or whatever, if it's beyond that, if it's too long ago, just forgetting about it, getting toothpaste. Toothpaste isn't that expensive anyway. Instead of that, no, no, no. Someone might actually have the not have the presence of mind. Or someone would be so full of anger or whatever other crud is going on in their life. Let's say someone actually kills the cashier. That level of anger and being that out of control is very much something that is becoming more and more of a reality for people. I get that. Some people literally are just one step away from losing it completely. I get that. I totally understand that. I'm not saying it's evil always. I'm saying this is the nature of the society we're in right now. I understand this. It's an angrier society. It's more intense. And it's more this way in the cities. It's different, of course, in certain areas, locales in the country, maybe, but in country areas. But so there's a lot, whether it's evil or whether it's just somebody is just totally out of their gourd, totally emotionally, just whatever's going on in the psyche of a person. These kinds of things are probably going to get more common. So it's not justified, but we're talking about morality, these kinds of things, and we're talking about how to how do people deal with life? How do people not snap like that? And most of us, vast majority of us, wouldn't ever hurt someone. We just scream at them, cause a scene at a grocery store or something, right? So how do we avoid that? How do we avoid doing that kind of stuff? Well, I've mentioned some things in previous videos, but I'm going to mention some things right now that will help. Something having to do with talking to people. And if you can't talk to people, which is happening increasingly, that's going to make the situation worse. Talking to loved ones, though. You need to talk to loved ones. We all need to talk to people that we're close to. If any of us don't have that option, that should be taken into account if any one of us do something crazy, because it makes someone go crazy, not talking to anybody. But there are other things, and they're singing church hymns, they're singing, playing beautiful music, listening to relaxing music, going for walks. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. And this is something I want you guys to have, if you have any responses to, please leave them in the comments below. Getting back to the protesters and the rioters and other stuff I was mentioning and being misunderstood, it's vital that we understand each other more and more. But it's always been vital, but it's really, really stinking vital right now. And if any of us has misunderstandings, let's work them out. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.